Namaste. Welcome to episode 11. Episode 11 is a milestone where you are moving from basic wellness, happiness, being alive, okay, enjoying this human birth to the fullest capability, from shifting to a spiritual path. Okay. Early stages of a spiritual path. Final destination in mind that we are looking at is experiencing and knowing the state of para, Paramatma, Parabrahman, Nirguna Brahman, Parameshwara, Paramjyoti, Bhagavan. And before that, there is a state when all the elements are in dormant state. At least all of them excepting one, we'll come to that. That's where Pratyahara comes in. All of them are in dormant state. As we said, the Panchabhutas, which are in a mixed form, Mishra, Panchikrit process. Okay. It thins down and ultimately they separate and they become 5 different elements, standalone, unmixed, non-active. That's the Shuddha Sattva state, which is just before Para. And then we are in a mixed state. Anything in a mixed state means we are in the cosmos. Either a human being, an animal, an insect, a fish, a worm, a plant, a rock, a planet, solar system, whatever, galaxies, wherever you are in this cosmos, you'll have some form. So what we introduced in is that Pratyahara, the primary thing that you have to start to notice is your inner sense. Okay. Inner sense is the 6th sense, as I said. The 5 senses that we know are vision, smelling, hearing, tasting, and touch. But that's the inner sense that you have to develop. It is there to start with because you know the basic animal instincts are 5. Okay. Basic animal instincts are food, thirst, sleep or rest, procreation, reproduction, and survival. These are termed as 5 basic needs or 5 basic instincts or 5 basic drives of being an animal. And we are an animal, partly human, as we say. We'll discuss that. The animal part is the reptilian part and the mammalian part. The reptilian part I told you was the entire one that is hanging around your skeletal system. Okay. Starting from brainstem down to the tailbone, the Sukshma part, and then the Stula part is going down to the toes. Head to the toe, you are a reptilian. In the Sukshma part, emotions are mammalian. Okay. So you have the reptilian part of the animal, you have the mammalian part of the animal. The human part of the animal, which is relating to the 6th sense, which is developed into an idea of consciousness and pure consciousness. Consciousness itself has several stages. Okay. So the basic consciousness that you have, awareness, alertness, I can see, I can talk, I can eat and all that, right? Which flows through these 5 senses. So the basic consciousness flows through these 5 senses. So the 6th sense is flowing through the 5 senses. When it moves out, you are enjoying this world, this creation, in some form. Okay. When it doesn't move out, it is still active inside you. Okay. And the sixth sense, when it is active inside you, you need to hold on to that. That sixth sense is what is the human endowed with, is what they say. Okay. That sixth sense is also available to some extent with animal forms. I'm not saying that it is only humans. Okay. But the humans have the ability to develop it into higher levels of consciousness. Okay. And there are, at least I would say, 3 levels of consciousness that we talk about. One is individualized consciousness, where the consciousness works within you. And that is where we come to pratyahara, the starting point. Consciousness working within you. How do I know what is happening inside me? Second is external consciousness, non-individualized. The consciousness gets to know what is happening outside without these 5 senses working. That means the sixth sense is working on its own. Now what is happening? How do I know that? When I am deeply engrossed in a book, somebody comes and stands behind you, suddenly you realize, what's happening? Somebody is standing behind you. You look at, then you see your daughter, son, wife, who has come to talk to you for something. So your external senses are engrossed, your mind is engrossed, your thought is engrossed, your emotions are engrossed in the book. But the sixth sense realizes somebody is there behind you. You need to pay attention. Okay. So it is that sixth sense, without the operation or without the attention of these 5 senses, which can know what is in the conscious, what is in the cosmos. That sixth stage of development, the developing that, is called cosmic consciousness, which is non-individualized, as they say. That means even when I'm using even when I am using the 5 senses, or the 5 senses are apparently open but they are not functioning, the sixth sense is working. That is individualized consciousness. And that is still working within this prapancha. Okay. The Panchabhuta forms in this cosmos. But that consciousness has 2 more steps to go, or 2 more steps it can evolve, the potential to evolve. The next 10 is called pure consciousness, where the consciousness can know without the mixture of the Panchabhutas. That means even when the Panchabhutas are in a standalone non-active form, along with several other elements which we'll discuss later, okay, consciousness knows these are all there, but they are not acting, non-active stuff. But because I know I am acting, I can see these things independently. At one point of time, therefore, it loses interest on its seeing other things which are non-acting and looks at itself. That means the consciousness becomes conscious of itself. That is the Shuddha Sattva state. I am not even looking at the 5 elements or other time, space, etc., etc. But consciousness knows it is consciousness and it is existing by itself. That is the Shuddha Sattva state, and that is called the Savikalpa Samadhi. Then over a period of time, okay, even that consciousness loses interest in itself, and then it reaches para state. Okay. So that is the state, that is the level to which this internal sixth sense has to be developed for spiritual progresses, starting from pratyahara. So pratyahara therefore has a significance as a starting point of a spiritual journey, while yama, niyama, asana and pranayama will give you a good quality life in this birth and prepare you for a better quality life in the next birth. Okay? Pratyahara is the one which starts to take you to higher levels of existence and beyond, the source, the Parabrahma, Paramatma, and so on and so forth. This is as per Yoga Tantra, including Patanjali Yoga. We will discuss devotion, Bhakti Marga, etc. later. You can also go to reach Paramatma with the extreme devotion and surrender. That we'll see later. But when you look at Ashtanga Yoga, because I need to relate to this biology, what is my potential? I'm talking about what is my potential. My potential is that I need to now, with Pratyahara, get a handle on that inner sense and then develop it to such an extent that I can take it to the highest level. So to start with, at Pratyahara level, the sense work through the nervous system at a gross level. Sense. There is hunger, there is some signal going from here to the brain. Brain understands because it has got a memory, it knows that this means hunger. Because earlier it has been like you do machine learning, the human learning has told you right from birth that if that is what is the sense, somebody gives food, then it becomes over. And therefore, that means it requires food. That means I am hungry. It's also a part of learning. Okay. Same way, the 5 basic needs control your internal senses, internal drives. So when we say that you can start with the highest level of Annamaya Kosha potential, of ability to live without food and water, and with the perfect benchmark of an erect spine, of that of Dadichi, erect backbone and straight backbone, strong backbone and erect brain. Okay, in a combination of these two, okay, and with pranayama where prana can flow through all that. Okay. You sort of transcend the 5 basic animal instincts, as they say, animal needs, animal instincts, animal drives. Okay. Food, thirst, sleep or rest, need for procreation, and need for survival, security need. This is gone. That means you are no longer an animal when these things evolve to that level. Okay. So with the first 4 level, you take the basics to some level, and then moment you start getting hold of the 6th sense. The 6th sense can be developed in, let's say, 7th, 8th, 9th, whatever. Now that is called the Turiya. In a different Vedantic concept, it's called Turiya. And some people say the para is Turiya Tita, even beyond Turiya. That means when the consciousness itself loses its consciousness, it becomes Turiya Tita. That's a different level. Fourth state of consciousness is called Turiya, and 5th state is called Turiya Tita in some schools. But essentially, consciousness means awareness. Attention, dhyana is one level. Attention, body awareness is one level. That means if you are hunger, you are aware of your body. If you are thirsty, you are aware of your body needs. Right? So body level awareness, mind level awareness, intellect level awareness, thought level awareness, it goes on and on. So awareness is one way of saying, which is a very basic level of this sense. Awareness becomes concentrated awareness, which is dhyana. That means samadhi, you have mastered the act of samadhi and you are going further there. Then that takes you to Nirvikalpa Savilkalpa Samadhi and Nirvikalpa Samadhi in Shuddha Sattva state and Para state. So essentially, therefore, the handle comes from the inner sense that you have, which today is available as an animal instinct to you, the 5 drives. So the more faster you transcend the 5 drives, the sense which is available to you, you get a better handle, better mastery on that. Otherwise, the 5 drives override all other inner sense that you have. Okay. So to that extent, the first 4 steps, yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, will ensure that you are moving towards the right path to be well prepared to handle the inner sense and master it. So pratyahara is when you start to get to the inner sense. Now we said that the inner sense means extremely developed nervous system. Okay. The nerve bundle which flows through everywhere is coming from the brain, coming through the spine, and then at various portions. From here, there's a spread. From here, it's a spread. There's a spread in nervous system, which the doctors see. You have images of that. Live images and videos are available, and so on and so forth. Okay. And these are all intermingled with your flesh and tissues and bones and organs and all that, because that is how the whole thing captures the signals and sends signals. When the Bhuta Shuddhi and Nadi Shuddhi happens, okay, and the thinning of Panchabhuta happens, right? These cells and the systems of cells are placed in a certain biological order, that your nervous systems becomes more sensitive. Example, if you take, there are two primary parts in the brain, a cerebellum and a cerebrum. Cerebellum is somewhere here behind the brainstem, and this is called cerebellum. And cerebellum has got 6 lobes. They have got different functions of this lobe. Okay. For example, this part is predominantly reasoning and all that stuff. Okay. And there is audio visual processing. And this side is temporal, which is sides of the brain, which is processing memory, language, etc. Okay. And then in the right interpart, just about the brainstem, there is a limbic brain, which is a lot of emotions, motivations, memory there as well. Okay. Whereas this part, which is the cerebrum, while there's a composite function, it's not very, very compartmentalized, everything works together, but there's a predominance of functions which we are talking about. This part, this is the cerebellum, back of the head, beneath the cerebrum, okay, behind the brainstem, is coordinating the motor movements, maintaining the balance, and smooth and refinement of smooth and coordinated activities. So most of the instincts supposedly operate from here. Okay. It's suppose the respiratory system also, there is a lot of things that's happening from this part to the brainstem. Because there are, you can say this is behind this. Okay. It makes respiration easy, a lot of stuff that goes on that becomes easy, so on and so forth. So, at some point of time, when you progress in Bhuta Shuddhi, Nadi Shuddhi, etc., your nervous system starts to work better. You can sense the sensitivities of changes within you to start with. Okay. And parallelly, because of that happening, you are outgrowing your animal nature also. So while you are outgrowing an animal nature, your nervous system is becoming refined and improved as you go. Okay, the brain system. Okay. The same happening parallelly. And they are linked to each other, correlated to each other. So we have to discuss the nervous system a little more when we talk about dealing with the sense. Okay, number one. Number two, when you start sensing, then you know how to adjust it also. So, like you say, when I feel hunger, I can eat, which is outside. But when I sense it, there are mechanisms by which I know what is the sense, what sense am I making out of this sense, sixth sense, through the sixth sense. It could be at a muscular level. Okay, then you know, okay, this muscle is sort of here, let me do something, and you may do some asanas because you have learned that, no? Let me stretch my muscles, let me sort of bend it and ease it off. Okay. So the sensing, because you have practiced asanas and pranayama, etc., okay, will tell you what you should do to correct a certain unease. So if sensing is your way to know, that correction is the way to do. If you want to use a higher level terminology, the sensing is Jnana Shakti, the corrective doing is the Kriya Shakti. So in this process of sensing, you start to get a certain mastery through sensing and acting internally, correcting. I'm correcting something. For example, correcting your balance, which I said is here, This is a function. Mostly you start with this level even before this level. Okay, you have to start with this level. If you are gifted already with this level, it's okay. But if you are not gifted, you have to improve. If you are gifted, you can further improve. So this portion is also associated with maintaining the balance. I'm coming back to samadhi, sama, maintaining the balance. Vertigo, you call it, right? Vertigo, you give vertigo, you adjust the balance. It's a balance between here, as they say. Okay. Sense of balance. Sense of balance, sixth sense. It's important stuff. So one of the things that you start to manipulate is the sense of balance. Okay. That sense of balance can be corrected again through asana, again through pranayama. Okay. And as you correct the sense of balance, you further improve in your ability to move from here, master this part and then master this part. Sahasrara, as they say. We'll discuss that in the next episode in terms of some detail where you can link it together. So we'll move on to next episode.